Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be helping out with summer courses at St. Stephen's this summer. I have my PhD from the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. It's a little over a decade now. Studied forgiveness in the theology of Karl Barth, and particularly what it means to think of the church as a place of forgiveness and reconciliation between humans, not just between individuals and Christ. So that really changed my outlook on the church and theology. I've done some pastoring, but eventually ended up teaching in England, at a place called Trinity College, Bristol, and here at a university in Calgary, which I've just moved on from, and I'm looking forward to doing some summer courses here for St. Stephen's. I live in Calgary with a family of married and have 4 boys, and we're all into sports and film and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of interests that end up showing up in my classes here and there. Film more so than sports, but yeah.
So fun. So you're doing a course called AI versus Humanity. Tell us about that.
Well, it's not every day that you do a course where you're actually making an argument. I mean, when I teach, I'll probably teach multiple arguments, and you'll be able to tell which one I probably prefer and the reasons why, but it's not necessarily spinning an argument as it is. But even when you spin an argument, you want to be fair to all sides. But in this case, the title is somewhat provocative / evocative, but I also do mean to try to at least give a case to students for why certain forms of artificial intelligence, so-called, are not friendly to the good of humanity as we understand it as revealed in Christ. So AI versus humanity, there's a particular kind of AI, the sort of generative AI that is being unrolled in a lot of platforms these days. And so we're going to spend some time thinking about what are the threats to humanity as we understand it, and understand that on a deep level, so that then we could assess various forms of AI for ourselves. So it is a bit of an argument, but we're not going to be argumentative. I'm happy to hear people wrestle through these issues and the good and bad of technology. It'll be a really good, productive time, I think.
So why this course and why now?
Yeah, so I mean, it would always be useful, I think, to have a course on theology and technology. I mean, we're still in the, who knows, are we in the beginning or the end or the middle of the technological age? But a theology of technology is always useful. But of course, right now, we're being bombarded with pretty fast changes to the ways that we interact, especially with the internet. And therefore, it affects the way the internet mediates our relationships with each other. And that's changing so rapidly. This is one of those times, again, it's a unique course where we get to study something that's happening right now, in real time. We need to discern a thing that's happening that I don't know that it has been reflected on either ethically or theologically to the degree that it needs to, considering the massive amounts of changes that it's bringing about to our daily and our political lives. So why now? I mean, this course might not even be needed 5 years from now. We will have some other thing, or the AI bubble will have popped, and we won't need this. But we do need this right now. So I'm really glad to get a chance to talk about this with a class of people.
I can think of a million reasons why this would be valuable right now.
Yeah.
So when you think about this course, who do you imagine it being for, and what could participants expect?
This class would be for anybody that wants to think theologically about moral and social issues of our day, but particularly I think that it's people in leadership, whether it's in organizations or companies or churches, or those who are in information technology, but also just everyday users of the internet, which is most people in the West, at least, who want to think carefully about such things. So it's for them. And there's sort of meme, come for the XYZ, stay for the ABC. And in a sense, people I think will come to this class because they're interested in thinking theologically about technology and especially AI. One of the things you'll get as a benefit that might be more interesting to some students will be that we're just going to walk through the basics of theological anthropology, that is the study of what it means to be human, and connect those to different ethical and political issues in a way that you get to do this in systematic classes, theology classes generally, but it kind of helps to have a focus, a particular ethical issue that you can focus on. And sometimes that makes the ramifications of the basics of theology kind of pop or stand out for their relevance. And I think that'll happen quite a bit in this class. And so I'm excited to kind of connect those dots for people.
Beautiful. Is there anything else topic wise that you think is important for people to know?
Yeah, I mean, one of the side benefits of this class is that students will not only think about technology, but they will think through some of the basics of theology in a really updated way. So there have been some advances. I don't know if I want to use the word advances, but some developments in theology in the last 60 years that I'm not sure have totally made it to the sort of mindset of people in churches that I've come across. Things like post colonial theology, liberation theologies, disability theology. These are theologies, they don't just correct sort of problems that arose in the 18th, 19th, 20th centuries.
That's
They
right.
actually
That's
help
right.
us to recalibrate our understanding of God and ourselves in a way that I think, if fully understood, would transform the way we approach our churches and our mission in the world as Christians. And
Mm,
so, again, come for a class on AI, stay for a chance to sort of dip your toe into some of the theologies that have arisen in the last few decades that haven't quite had the transformative effect that I think they can have on us.
mm,
To me, that's almost the primary benefit of the class. And the AI is sort of the
yeah.
hook, the issue that gets us thinking about that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and needs to speak directly to, I think, the technological world these days. And I'm not sure that thread has been pulled together in a concrete way like it needs to be.
I mean, the work is being done by scholars, but we don't often get a chance to bring this into the classroom or the churches. And so that's an integration that excites me, that I want to help people think through. And I want to learn too from folks. People will come from different perspectives, and that'll be a good chance to sharpen my understanding of this kind of emerging problem slash opportunity.
All right. One last question from you as John
Yeah.
to, thinking through the contours of a theology of technology, recognizing the world that we live in right now. We approach our SSU summer school within a time and place, and recognizing that we find ourselves 2026 in a world where a lot of people are wrestling with rising forms of authoritarianism, fascisms, new variations that technology and AI is also very much entangled with. All the people who are in the midst of that wrestle, what would you say to folks right now?
Well, one of the things that's really stood out to me in the last 5, 10 years, especially about our social moment, I suppose you'd say, is that it's shown what I think people have known in theory for a long time, and that is that authoritarianism can happen in a democracy.
Yep.
There are slippery ways that a society can become authoritarian, even under democracy. And if you're not paying attention to the sort of mechanics of tyranny, then you might miss the ways that you can resist, small ways to big ways. And I don't mean resist even necessarily in the sense of activism or protest, but ways that you can avoid going with the grain of an authoritarian sort of collection of power. And of course, under democracy, we've always known in theory, but now we're knowing like palpably in experience that you can have a democracy on the face of it, but unregulated corporations can amass, especially through technologies, they can amass power into themselves that we just keep lending power to it simply by being consumers of the goods they provide, and they all seem like harmless consumptions in the moment, but we're actually contributing to an infrastructure of unchecked power. And this is even more insidious when it reaches the level of our knowledge and communication, because now
Yeah.
one of the key tools in authoritarian regimes everywhere has been control of information and knowledge. And populism is particularly insidious form of authoritarianism because they can claim to be speaking for the people, but the machinations, the mechanics of how people get knowledge and communicate with one another are owned by sort of knowledge vendors.
Yeah.
And not everybody's even working together intentionally on this, but the sort of powers that be can bring about authoritarianism just through the mechanics of consumption and knowledge mediation without any of us having to think about it. And so it's the sort of insidious ways that authoritarianism works under sort of free market democracy. That's what we need to be really attentive to as churches. And that's really what gets me kind of fired up about this class and the discernment that's needed.
So no more ChatGPT sermons, hey?
Well, I would prefer not.